This e-lecture is part of Pearson's Professional Development Series for first-year writing instructors.
Hi, my name is Michael Flachmann, and I'm going to talk with you about kinesthetic learning techniques in the composition classroom. I strongly believe that people teach in ways that mirror their own personal learning styles. That is, we adopt teaching techniques that we ourselves would be comfortable with if we were students in our own classes. For example, I know lots of composition instructors who are themselves very left-brained, linear learners who expect their students to learn in very left-brained, linear ways. So they write on the chalkboard, read from the book, use PowerPoint presentations and internet resources in a linear, sequential fashion to help their students mimic the way in which they themselves learned how to become good writers. Research has told us for years, however, that our students have very diverse learning styles. As a result, these one-size-fits-all linear left-brain teaching techniques do not work well on many of our composition students who come to us with educational appetites and aptitudes that may be very different from our own. I learned years ago, in fact, that I am an anomaly in the world of teaching composition because I'm a very right-brained, kinesthetic learner teaching in a very left-brained profession. The symptoms of this kinesthetic learning aptitude are that I'm a devoted jock. I'm a black belt in judo. I teach judo and self-defense courses at my university. I play a lot of sports, especially tennis. I also work during the summers in professional theater, principally at the Utah Shakespearean Festival, where I've been company dramaturg for the past 24 years, where I do research, script cuts, song lyrics, program notes. As a result, over the years, my right-brain kinesthetic proclivities have shaped the way I teach to a great extent. One happy result is that I've had some success with composition students who have not responded well in the past to more traditional teaching methods. Based on that brief background, I'd like to share 3 techniques I've found effective in the composition classroom which get students up and moving around and learning with their minds and bodies at the same time. I think techniques such as these can often be extremely successful with students who learn as I do, that is, in a very right-brained, kinesthetic way. The first technique I like to use is what I call a blind walk. We used to do this back in the 60s. I think it's coming back in popularity, and I use it as a very powerful way of getting students involved and teaching them about the communication between a writer and his or her readers. I group up people in pairs of students. We blindfold one of the students, and the other student is that blindfolded student's guide. He or she cannot touch the blindfolded student and can only talk that person through navigating across the campus. In fact, other professors know when they see students walking around the campus blindfolded, they say, Flachmann is at it again. This helps students understand that writers lead their readers into uncharted, unknown intellectual territory, and they have to provide signposts along the way. They have to give them help. They have to show them transitions. They have to illustrate a definite beginning and ending to their essay. They need to give clear instructions throughout. For example, now we're moving on to another topic. Here's why this point is important. This is how this particular insight relates to my thesis. And I find that students become much better communicators when they've done this physically before they begin to write their intellectual verbal argument. A second technique I really love using is I've developed this punctuation game. This is going to sound crazy, but you have to stick with me on this. I have students come up with games in which I give them oversized cardboard punctuation marks which they scotch tape to their chest. They'll have commas and semicolons and colons and parentheses. Other students then impersonate dependent and independent clauses, and I pick students to become punctuation marks that they've had trouble with in real life. If, for example, a student has trouble using semicolons, I give her a semicolon to use. Students line up across the room, and a student might say, I love to cook. Another student would say, consequently, and a third student would say, I'm making lasagna tonight. Students who have the punctuation marks on their chests will jump up and therefore punctuate the sentence. And then they all pronounce their punctuation marks. So the students would read sequentially from left to right, I love to cook. The semicolon person would say semicolon. The next student would say consequently. The comma person would say comma. And then the last person would say, I'm making lasagna tonight, and the last student would say period. This is much more kinesthetic, active, and engaging than simply doing punctuation drills on the board or in their seats. A typical response I get from the students is, oh, now I get it. Now I understand why hasn't anybody ever explained semicolons to me in this fashion. A final drill that I use, or technique that I use, I call the yay-nay game. We've all suffered from the horror of having a classroom discussion when only a few students participate. This is especially useful with controversial topics taken from a reader in class, a textbook with essays, models of prose style. And some of the examples I'll use here come from our textbook, The Prose Reader, put out by Pearson Publishing. For example, there's an essay by Barrett Seaman entitled How Binging Became the New College Sport, which is about drinking on campus. And I'll begin with a deliberately provocative or inflammatory statement. For example, the legal drinking age should be raised to 25. Or I might say the legal drinking age should be lowered to 16. Then I have the students actually get up, stand up, and move to two opposite sides of the room, depending upon whether they agree or would say yay, or disagree, say nay to that statement. And they have to stand up and walk to the side of the room they agree with. They cluster together, they discuss the topic, they elect a spokesperson, and then we have a little debate across the classroom during which they try to seduce people into changing sides. I find there's something about getting students up and out of their seats that liberates and emboldens them, and they experience the debate with their minds and bodies. They literally declare where they stand on these different topics. And they're better able afterwards to construct a convincing argument when they write about the topic. Other examples of inflammatory statements include when we do Jessica Mitford's Behind the Formaldehyde Curtain, I might make the statement, funeral homes should always show full disclosure about their embalming practices. Or in the immigration debate, I might say, the United States should close its borders by erecting a 30-foot fence around its territories, or the U.S. should allow instant citizenship to anyone who requests it. So this is a sample of the way I use right-brain kinesthetic techniques to teach composition. I also use a variety of the same interactive physical techniques to teach literature, martial arts, and other topics that I care passionately about. If you like this approach to teaching composition, I'd encourage you to invent your own right-brain teaching techniques with your own students. Let me know how they work. If you come up with some good ones, send your emails to mflachmann@csub.edu. We're all in this together. We need to help each other become better teachers to serve a student population with very diverse learning styles. I'd love, in fact, to steal some teaching techniques from you.
For additional e-lectures, visit Pearson's professional development site for first-year writing instructors at www.pearsonhighered.com/compro.